John, the Seahawks won Super Bowl 60. We haven't talked about it yet, really. We've just been sending memes to each other over the last few days about how bad the Patriots are, but it is time for us to finally break it down on this episode. It's not going to be a really long episode. We both have places to be, but it's going to be a very fun one. We're just going to talk basically the Super Bowl. We're going to talk a little bit of Mariners, a little bit of college basketball, and then we're going to get out of here. Anything to say before we drop some Cody Picnic for our lovely podcast viewers, or listeners, I guess?
Big dub, baby. Let's go.
Yes, sir. All right, we're live on YouTube as always. Check us out there Thursdays and Wednesdays, or Wednesdays every week. But as always, for the podcast listeners, here is some Coyote Picnic. We're going to stay live on YouTube. All right, John, who was your player of the game? That's the first thing that I want to ask, because I think, the kind of media perspective was like, oh, okay, it was Kenneth Walker by a mile. Like, there was really no other guy who performed super well. JSN, 4 catches for 27 yards. Sam Darnold, 19 for 38, only had a couple hundred yards. Like, nothing really special popped out, except for just the overall defensive play. So what did you think coming out of that game?
Yeah. Well, I hate to join the greater media against you there, Tyler, but I think it's impossible to walk away from that game and not think the star of the show was Kenneth Walker. And I think the reason for that is the defense was so dominant everywhere. I mean, obviously, you could say Devin Witherspoon, was just a total monster, but, so was Darius and all the guys on the defensive line. Like, it was just a completely dominating defensive performance. So I think, if we're talking fantasy players, the Seahawks special teams and defense was certainly the star of the game. But obviously, if we're breaking it down to individuals, the other thing leaning in Kenneth's favor in that regard is that we did first. Congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks, and congratulations to us for so many accurate predictions about this game. But the one thing that I could not have been more wrong about was Kenneth Walker's effectiveness. I mean, he was awesome. He had the most rushing yards in a Super Bowl since a guy on the Broncos in the mid-'80s who was apparently pretty good. And he did that against the number 1 rushing defense in the NFL. So while the defense was exploiting a pretty shaky New England offensive system that we've seen, kind of teetering all playoffs, Kenneth did something against a really strong unit and really propelled our offense this game.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, to me, the Walker performance was really a facet of like, hey, the Seahawks defense is going to win this game. I think that was kind of the key thing that not a lot of people are talking about, where it's like, hey, if the Patriots only had the ball for 25 minutes of the game and Kenneth Walker was just, hey, here's another rushing attempt, like, you keep doing your thing. This was just such a great performance by him. 27 carries. We haven't seen him really go above 20 for most of the last couple seasons, just on kind of a per-game basis. So he just got the ball a lot. They were just like, hey, this guy's going to eat clock. That's the reason it felt so fast, right? The game felt like it flew by. And really, they just wanted to get the bad money because that was the best part of the Super Bowl. But
Truly.
But really, it was just like, yeah, hey, Kenneth Walker, keep doing what you're doing. Even if you don't have a net gain, like, we're going to take 40 seconds off the clock, and eventually you'll bust one out. And obviously he did on the one that was called back. But in general, just a really solid game by him. Obviously, the 2 catches as well for 26 yards goes towards that total of yards, about kind of 160-ish on the game, which was kind of, I think, propelled him to that final MVP mark when it comes to Super Bowl MVP. But overall, yeah, Kenneth Walker was really good. I want to talk about this because last week I said I had Devin Witherspoon at 125-1 odds. I think I told you that on MVP, and I was like, man, they interviewed him after the game, and I was like, dude, I think they might do it. I had my friends all waiting around like, dude, this could be the one.
Close, I bet. It was close.
I think it was like the counting numbers didn't really add up for Witherspoon. Like, he had the sack, and then he had kind of the forced. See, if it was a fumble instead of an interception on that pick 6,
yes,
I think he would have had it, just because of the counting stats weren't as great for him. But overall, like, defensively, I was very glad that I had Witherspoon in there.
Yeah, well, and it's a bummer for you in that bet is that, we've seen this type of Super Bowl play out a number of times, and they give it to the best defensive guy. And that was Witherspoon was the one that popped because he basically accounted for a sack and a turnover in the backfield, playing as a cornerback. Just really impressive stuff. But Kenneth's numbers were just so unprecedented, and they came so steadily. It wasn't a couple, his biggest play of the night and his only touchdown were called back. But he had 160 yards. Sam Darnold had 200. He almost eclipsed the quarterback's yards accumulated, and he was doing it on like 9-yard runs, just time and time again. So, I was not surprised when Kenneth got it. But yeah, a bummer for all our defensive MVP bettors out there, because there were a couple of candidates that were very strong.
Yeah, another note, just in general, Sam Darnold, we've all talked about it, right? Sam Darnold didn't really have the best game, all things considered, right? 19 for 38, that's 50% completion percentage, only 200 yards, 1 touchdown. But I think the key there was he didn't make any mistakes. He had a lot of close mistakes. Well, as a Seahawks fan, I'm not afraid to say that Sam Darnold could have had a couple of picks there, but 1 sack just for the 8 yards there, and that was kind of it. In terms of actual mistakes, that was the only thing that really happened to set this team back at all. And during the game, you could feel it. Like, even though they weren't progressing the ball super quickly and efficiently, they punted a decent number of times overall during this game, but they just kept the Patriots kind of on their back foot, playing the positioning game. And that's why the game didn't feel fun, but it was just so well played by the Seahawks. 29-13 is a great outcome of this. I don't think any of us really thought that was going to be the kind of total that was going to happen. I think we thought there would be more Patriots scoring, all things considered. But the fact that we held them to 13 points, the 1 touchdown, is just so good. Or I guess 2 touchdowns. They had the failed 2-pointer. Right?
Well, and I completely agree. Sam's performance cannot be underrated, in my opinion, because I thought he was excellent.
Yeah.
You look at 200 yards on 50% passing completion and 1 touchdown, 75 QBR, and you say, okay, that was a pretty mediocre game. It wasn't. It was a masterful game of ball control from him, where, I've heard it, he almost threw a couple picks. Those first couple throws where people were saying that, they were definitely tight window throws, and Patriots got, a hand on the football. But none of them were like, oh my gosh, that DB dropped that ball. They were both like, yeah, I guess if he could, launch 5 yards laterally, he might have had a chance at it. But they weren't, bad throws. They were just tight window throws. And I appreciated him being aggressive against a really good defense in the Patriots, where it's like, hey, when the score's tied at the beginning of the game, you got to go accumulate points. But what we saw from him, and what we've seen from him quite a bit this year, is the ability to understand what is happening in front of you. When they generated those first couple field goals, and it was apparent that the Seattle defense just had Drake May and this offense's number, he really pulled his foot back off the gas, and he played a much more conservative brand of football. Got the ball to Kenneth Walker, let him do his thing. That took a lot of pressure off Sam. But then also, was not afraid to throw the ball out of bounds when there, was a tight situation. 1 sack is all he accumulated against this really good Patriots defense, and no turnovers. And honestly, I still think there was a chance they were going to give him MVP because of the quarterback bias, and because he did such a good job protecting the football and letting this defense win the game.
Yeah, you kind of even understated, this Patriots defensive line is really good, and he had a couple movements where it was subtle, yes. But the way that he was able to avoid the rush there was, all the New England fans out in the world have been, I feel like they're a louder bunch, and so I personally, not being in Seattle, haven't really had the chance to talk about it a lot, but the ability for him to move around in the pocket and feel comfortable, and it didn't really feel like he rushed himself in any way. Drake May was rushing the entire game in terms of his processing and everything like that. Sam Darnold was taking it slow, taking it where he could get it, and honestly, he was 2 Christian Gonzalez amazing plays away from throwing for 3 touchdowns and having a couple of really nice throws there. Christian Gonzalez played an amazing game for the Patriots.
Amazing.
Dude, it was nuts.
Was amazing.
Yeah.
Dude, he missed one ball where you're like, which is where, to your point, Sam avoided a really good pass rush, stepped up, and then if he just would have had a little more touch on that ball to JSN, I think they were only up 3-0 or maybe 6-0 at the time, which would have been like a 60-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
That's the one he wants back. But yeah, he had a couple beautiful deep balls that, to your point, Gonzalez was all over it. What a studded quarterback that guy is. But, dude, it tells you a little bit about how broken QBR is, where Drake May accumulated at least 200 of his 295 in the second half.
In the last 6 minutes, probably.
yeah. At least, the last 3 drives, he probably had 180 yards. As the defense was saying, hey, man, we're going to give you 10 yards every play. We're using clock. That's what we're doing out here. So he finished with 295, two touchdowns, two picks, and six sacks. He has a higher QBR rating than Sam Darnold, which makes zero sense. He was a disaster.
Yeah, I mean they did huck the ball 43 times on a bum shoulder. So that
Yeah,
the real key there is like the Seahawks, threw the ball 38 times, but they ran the ball 32 times, and the Patriots rushed the ball 18 times. They like didn't rush the football at all. So it was just all Seahawks ball control. The Patriots were really just unable to even. And granted, they didn't want to, but they didn't progress the clock at all. So just time of possession, time that the Patriots defense was on the field, that is how you whittle down a team. I talk about it all the time. Like that fourth and second half in general, the fourth quarter and second half was really just so well done by the Seahawks. And once they were able to break it open with the A.J. Barner touchdown, which I think I called, didn't I?
you did. You called AJ. We have to, when we're done just talking big stuff, we have to walk through and credit ourselves because I think we went like 6 for 7 with our little prop bets.
Dude, we did good. I think you and I were both pretty high on the like JSN's not going to have a big game. Rashid Shaheed would have had a huge one, but he had that one Christian Gonzalez play. But other than that, like we were so spot on.
My parlay of the day hit. My Drake May over 220, JSN under 93 receiving yards.
Yep.
Huge for your boy.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I had the my big one was Seahawks to win, and the adjusted over of 40.5. I think I was telling you about that one. That one was like even odds. Felt a little scared there for most of the game, and then kind of busted open there at the end. The Kenneth Walker touchdown being brought back also scared me, but it was a crazy one.
The only Seahawks fan rooting for those two measly Patriots touchdowns.
Dude, the big thing was, there was a moment, and this is just us boys talking now. We're not even analyzing the game. But when I had Drake May, I think I told you at plus 380, like really early on, I took him to score a touchdown. In that play where he threw the ball that went really low to Ramondre, and he caught it and went in for the touchdown, Drake May was like a foot before the line of scrimmage, and I thought he was going to take off and get the touchdown. I was like standing up so ready for it. I was so excited.
Again, in that position, the game was already over.
Yeah.
But I did want it. I didn't just want it to be over and be bad and have everyone know it bad. I wanted it to be historically recorded as bad. I would hate for somebody to look at this and be like, oh, 29-13. Maybe Seattle pulled away late. Maybe it was a good game. It's like I wanted it to be 29-7. They smacked the shit out of this team. So I did line of scrimmage when he threw that ball to Ramondre. It should have been penalized. It should have come back, but silliness.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess we could just dive into kind of the rest of it that we were talking about. There's not a ton big picture-wise, but with regards to necessarily the Super Bowl, obviously, Kubiak's gone and there's a bunch of postseason stuff, but did you want to talk any more bets and things like that before we jump into kind of the post-Super Bowl, into the postseason, off-season discussion?
Yeah, I guess we touched on the bets. I was wrong on the Kenneth under. He proved me very wrong. How do we do? I can't remember what the yardage value was for Kenneth over under receiving yards that you called, but it was right around 20. I'm not sure if you got.
I think it was 20. And he got the over on that one, but it was receptions he was under because I definitely was like, hey, if you're going to take Kenneth Walker receptions, go for like 4. And he and Helani combined only had the 3, which I blame Sam Darnold. 19 incompletions. What are we doing here, Sam?
Come on, Sam. Get that down to the flat. Get that up to your boy. But yeah, I guess any bets for you? I think that's all I had on my mind.
The other big one was Ernest Jones. I think a very quiet 11 tackles with 1 tackle for loss. Just Ernest Jones was everywhere, and the entire season Ernest Jones has been so good. Obviously the line was really good too. Derek Hall, Byron Murphy both with 2 sacks, Riley Mills with the sack, and that's a rookie who's coming in there and playing well. DeMarcus Lawrence I thought would have a little bit bigger of a game, but he was kind of just I'm going to be a presence in here. And then
he was causing problems.
Yeah,
other people were cleaning up the messes.
Exactly. Him and Leonard Williams kind of had the same thing, where Leonard Williams they were like so focused on him that it opened up opportunities for Hall and Murphy and Mills. So
yeah, Hall and Murphy were eating because of those two's dominance. I 100% agree. Hall is awesome, but he looked like our best defensive lineman, and he might be our 4th best defensive lineman. So it just speaks to how great that line is and how well they work together. Murphy, one thing I want to say about this defense too is I think the hallmark of every defense is just like a tackle king, a guy that's just like 10 tackles a game. And when you think about, Legion of Boom, it's like Bobby Wags.
Yeah,
Bobby
exactly.
Swags is the tackle king. Something I love about this Seattle defense, they might have three tackle kings. Like I feel like Amon Wari is absolutely a tackle king. That guy is recording a ton of tackles every single game. And then when they use Witherspoon the way they used him in this game, where they're like, "Hey, dude, I know you're a cornerback, but you're going to spend most of your day in the backfield." He is also a tackle king. And he's great at playing the run, great at getting to the running back. So it's quite a glut of resources to be like, which one is our tackle king?
It's also really nice too because I think we haven't really talked about Drake Thomas a ton until like last week a little bit, but Drake Thomas is like he was a backup linebacker and he comes in with 6 tackles in this game. Like the fact that we can have Ernest Jones step out for a little bit and Drake Thomas just come in and be another rock star in the linebacker position, like that's so nice. I was going to say with the Witherspoon thing, they played just like a kind of over, not as directly overhead shot, but like kind of behind the quarterback angle of Witherspoon's blitz where he was able to get to Drake May on the one sack. And watching Devin Witherspoon fly between the tackles and just like the athleticism that he had on that play was insane. Like sometimes I'm like, oh man, the football can't be that hard. Like I know it's quick, but in my head I feel like I can partake in this sport, you know? And then I watched that play and I was like, oh, that guy's a freak. Like Devin Witherspoon is an insane athlete. And I think it's best captured when you really see him get in the backfield and use that kind of like blitz from the corner side. It's so like exhilarating watching him play.
Yeah, when it's and I cannot express to you how much Mike McDonald loves that in like a skill set.
Yeah.
And Witherspoon, he's when people are talking about the best corners in the NFL, he can get lost a little bit because he's much more of a Jalen Ramsey than he is a Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
When we think about the best corners, we're always thinking about pure coverage corners. The Sherman type. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy on Denver. Who's the
Surtain?
cornerback for Denver?
Is that Surtain?
Patrick Surtain. That everyone's like, that's the guy. And he is, credit where it's due. Him or, God, even maybe Gonzalez. Those guys are like coverage kings where it's like, throw in their direction at your own peril. But to have the skill set of a guy that is a very solid coverage corner but can also be just an elite blitzer is so valuable for a defensive schemer like McDonald to be able to work the quarterback. That's another part. It's like, oh, Drake May was the one seeing ghosts. It's like, yeah, dude, they're blitzes coming from a 20-yard range of positions across the field. It's not just keeping your eyes forward. You need to have eyes on the sides of your head. It's just, I cannot overstate how valuable it is as an asset. And he is the best, especially with Ramsey getting older. He is clearly, in my opinion, the best blitzing cornerback in football.
Yeah, I guess let's take this a little bit further and let's talk about the corners that we're losing and a couple of free agents that are gonna step away from the team here in this offseason. Kobe Bryant, a guy who was a general backup and has ended up kind of carving a role for himself as that kind of number 2, number 3 corner. Josh Jobe and Reek Woolen also both getting going to the free agency. And they're all unrestricted. Obviously, we've got a couple more players, but that's 3, corner/safety players that are going to be gone. And then you've got Rashid Shaheed, who's going to be out, Kenneth Walker, who we'll talk a little bit more about later, Boye Mafe, and Josh Jones. That's 5 defensive players that are going to be free agents here coming up. What are your kind of thoughts looking at that list? Are you worried now about this Seahawks team? I have this as a note for us as well. They only have 4 picks this offseason. Like they're going to have to either go sign some guys or they're going to have to take cornerbacks, and they don't even have enough picks to fill the free agency spots that they're going to have on this roster. So they're just going to lose talent inherently. So are you worried about that at all?
It's part of being a Super Bowl champion.
Yeah.
I do think when you look at this list, I'm not worried about Seattle being gutted in this offseason. A couple of these guys I reckon will get re-signed, and then a couple they'll try to replace in the draft. But I think there's a decent chance we can come out of this just as good, if not maybe a little bit better going into next season. In terms of what I do think is who do you let go, who do you keep? Obviously, we're Super Bowl champions, and now we've got this love attached to every one of these guys. If we'd lost the Super Bowl, I think most people in Seattle would be willing to wave goodbye to Reek Woolen.
I think he's still gone, even though we won. I think he's one of those guys that's going to be gone no matter what.
and that's the hard part is you have to let some of these guys go. I do think, especially with the stars we have on defense, trying to fill in the gaps on defense in the draft is, I think, the smart way to go there. Keep money free on the defensive side for those guys you're going to have to pay. And also, in the Legion of Boom standard, try to replace guys as opposed to, just keeping guys in and paying them. Especially these tertiary guys like Reek Woolen, like Kobe Bryant. It's like, no, you know what? You're good, but we need to focus on other areas. We're going to draft new guys and we're going to let you go. I do think, and maybe it's just, again, offense is so fun. I really would love to bring back both Shaheed and Kenneth Walker. My thought is, if we spend our first round pick on a cornerback, which is a very reasonable position to spend a first round pick on, and then re-sign Shaheed and Kenneth, that covers our biggest issues in terms of what would potentially be lost in free agency. And yeah, and this is where, am I getting too crazy? Kenneth, we'll talk for a while about Kenneth. Rashid Shaheed. I do not know what kind of money he's going to require to stay in Seattle, but, even if he never plays an offensive snap, what he's done for our special teams has to be in some consideration for something. The Patriots were punting to the opposite side of the field all game because of him.
The fact that Michael Dixon is making like $10 million. We can pay Rashid Shaheed 7 or 8, and I think he would be happy with that for a couple of years. Like, he's 24. He's not going to lose his speed. He's like not even in his technical athletic prime. Like, this is a guy who the Seahawks should sign, and maybe there'll be other teams that are willing to offer him more to be more of a wide receiver or whatever it is. But I think he's a guy that the Seahawks should definitely keep looking at and say, hey, this offense clicked well. Like, yeah, Cooper Kupp's going to be a year older, but all things considered, like, JSN's young. Jake Bobo is like 25, 26 maybe, and then Rashid Shaheed's 24. Free. Like, yeah. These are all players that are affordable. I think Rashid Shaheed is going to be affordable. Yeah, he's going to cost a little bit of money, but if you can secure him for another couple of years and then he's going to get an opportunity to go somewhere else after this kind of window has advanced to either a point where we're still contending and we can extend him, or we're kind of out of this contention window whenever Sam Darnold leaves and we're looking for a quarterback or whatever happens. But if you can continue to extend this window by getting Shaheed, I think that's a prime option. I think Maffei's a guy who we're probably going to re-sign just because he's been kind of an integral part of this roster in terms of the defensive line and how things have clicked. I think Kobe Bryant is probably a guy who's going to be pretty cheap just because he was that kind of like forgotten third cornerback. I think he's a guy who would want to return to the Seahawks and still play in that kind of second or third cornerback role. And then other than that, go for it.
I'd bring them all back on team-friendly deals for what it's worth. Yeah, if Kobe's willing to take a little bit less to stay here, or if we just know his value better than other teams do, fantastic. I do think what you see with Super Bowl champions is everyone wants a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
And a guy like Reek Woolen is going to get more money than he probably deserves to play somewhere else. So we can't afford to match that.
That's my thing. He's going to ask for $15 million, and I don't think the Seahawks should be paying Reek Woolen $15 million. Like, he's the guy that everybody has been like, oh, this is the Sauce Gardner, Reek Woolen. Like, that's the two that are kind of competing for that one of those top cornerback spots. And it's like, we don't want to pay this guy Sauce Gardner money. What are we talking about here? Like, let Reek Woolen walk.
Great for the Colts, by the way. They love that Sauce Gardner deal. I still like that trade, but it was a disaster for this season.
Ended up not being great, yeah.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point with Shaheed, though. Last thing I want to say on it, too, is that, one, a guy we forgot to mention in our Super Bowl recap, Cooper Kupp was awesome.
Yes.
It might have been his best game as that veteran safety valve that he's had with the Seahawks. And what he provided, obviously tons of attention going to JSN. JSN struggled, but go ahead and put quotation marks on that.
He was injured for a quarter, too, yeah.
Yeah, and they were throwing a ton of pressure at him, and the offense, the way we were playing, we just kind of shifted away from him. But what Cooper was able to do to be that relief valve, it gave me a lot of joy because I love Cooper Kupp, and it also just gave me a lot of confidence in that triad as a receiving core of JSN is your X. He's your stud. He can do everything up and down the field, and he's going to get a ton of the targets. Cooper is your relief valve. He's not going to really attack downfield that much. He's going to live in the slot. He's going to live, running post to the outside. And then, Rashid is the guy taking the top off play after play. Special teams demon that just takes the top off the defense. The fact that Christian Gonzalez had to spend, a third of the game sprinting after Rashid downfield shows the way they at least respect that option. So again, he's I'm trying not to overdo it. He's almost like Steph Curry, where like his effect on the field is greater than what you're seeing with your eyes. Where it's the way he stretches a defense vertically, even if he finishes with 0 catches, is helping other guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also Cooper, he was kind of really good at finding the soft spot in that the layering that Kubiak was able to do in terms of the offense, right? If you look at how those bootlegs are designed, it's kind of a Kenneth Walker is the first layer, then it's Cooper Kupp, then it's JSN, then it's Shaheed. There's kind of like the 4 layers of receivers that they can have there, and Cooper Kupp was just so sure-handed in that. I think he didn't even have a drop. I can't even say sure-handed for 100% of that, but he had 1 drop. Other than that, he was so good, and obviously Walker being a pass-catching back is also super nice. I really love the way that all those kind of 3 plus Kenneth Walker making it 4, like those guys all worked together with the offense. That was really, really nice. And the fact that they were all so competent at each of their roles was really nice. Going with that discussion, because we do only have 5 or so minutes. We've been talking about this for so long already.
We got excited.
Yeah. So obviously Walker, I think he's earned an offer from the Seahawks no matter what. I don't think you can say that he should not at least get, a $15 million a year offer for 2 or 3 years. I think that's going to be a sure thing. The question is, do the Seahawks franchise tag him? Which, if you don't know what a franchise tag does, is it basically takes the average of some of the top, I think it's like top 5 running backs or whatever position it is, and it averages those out, and you pay him that much money for 1 year. That's what a franchise tag is. Do you think he's worth a franchise tag? Do you think he's worth keeping around for a year for generally top running back money? Like if you're averaging out the top 5 running backs in the league, that's going to be a decent amount.
Yeah, I mean the top guys get paid pretty good. So no, I don't think they should tag him. I don't really think that makes sense. I like the idea of giving him a reasonable deal for like 2 years, just to kind of match up him and Darnold's windows of like, okay, no, this works. Let's try to keep those 2 guys together for that span. But ultimately, he's going down in Seattle history because of what he did this postseason, but we can't overreact to how frustrating he has been in the regular season. Now, part of that is the offensive scheme, and part of it's the offensive line play, but part of it is Kenneth Walker and his issues with injury and, his inability to give you 27 good carries every game. Now, we just saw when he can give you 27, he can give it with the best of them, but there were too many frustrating games for me to want to give this guy a franchise tag. My suspicion is, like, Shaheed is a guy that I'm excited we can bring back because he's not going to get way more money somewhere else, and he likes his role here. Kenneth Walker is a guy where I think Jerry Jones was watching that Super Bowl and just started drooling and is going to... I mean, he was probably already drooling for other reasons, but now also drooling over Kenneth Walker, and is going to give him a Godfather offer and give him, maybe slightly lower than like a Bijan type deal, but be like, hey, come to Dallas and be our star running back. That's very, very tempting for a guy like Kenneth. I don't think the Seahawks can afford to match it. I'm not sure he's worth a deal like that. And the franchise tag, it's bad vibes. You don't want a running back with bad vibes. And it's also, I'm not sure they can afford to do that. This is going to be an expensive team. They got a lot of stars. And to pay top dollar for a running back, I'm not sure they can afford to do.
I think the reason that you tag Kenneth Walker, and this is just kind of like, if the Seahawks are looking at this from the Zach Charbonnet is probably not going to play for maybe the first quarter, maybe first half of next season. That's kind of why you tag Walker, because you need somebody to be able to take the brunt of the workload in the beginning of the season because you don't have Charbonnet, and then you can say, hey, in the second half, we can go back to what you guys were doing in the 2025-2026 season, and you'll have just a lot less to do. So I think it would be nice for Walker, but in that vein, because he's now the Super Bowl MVP, he would just make less money. I think that would be, like, he wouldn't appreciate if the Seahawks franchise tagged him, because now is his time to go get a big deal. He's going to get a 2-3 year deal and make, and maybe he'll make like I said, $45 million, $15 million a year. And so if he's able to do that instead of getting franchise tagged for 1 year of $24 million, I think he would be much happier on a longer term deal. Yes. And knowing that he's going to be the main back for the foreseeable future with an organization like the Cowboys or something like that.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, it's part of the reason franchise tag with running backs typically not great strategy because if they're good enough to deserve that money, you should just pay them for multiple years.
Yeah.
And if they're not, then that's a waste of resources. So you don't see it done very often. But it's also just it's bad vibes for everybody, but no worse vibes for the most underpaid position in the NFL,
Yep.
whose kind of mantra is like use them and toss them out the door, where they have to get their money while they can because their windows are short and they want long term deals. So I do think 100%, even 3 years would get him a lot happier than a tag. And I also think if we lose him, it's gonna be because somebody else offers him a lot more money for more time. And as a running back, you can't say I love playing here. I'm not taking that money. You kind of have to take what the highest bidder is.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure Seattle can afford to be the highest bidder in this situation. I hope I'm wrong. I would love if everybody else said no, thank you.
Yeah. I guess let's take this opportunity to jump one more rung up the ladder and talk about Walker being, the kind of guy who really thrives in a Kubiak scheme, with those screen passes and everything like that. I think that was really nice. And now with Kubiak gone, I think it's going to take a little bit of time to figure out, the Seahawks are going to have to find a new offensive coordinator. I don't know that he's going to, whoever that is, I don't know that he's going to gel well with exactly the type of style that Kenneth Walker is, which is a, screen and get outside outside the tackles guy. Like, I think there's a little bit of an avenue there for the Seahawks to pursue a different type of route with their running backs. So
Yes.
what are your thoughts on that? How do you want to approach the offensive coordinator hire? I guess is the question with regards to running backs and how we want to approach the next season.
And it all's really tied together. It's hard to separate out. But I do agree with you. Ultimately, what Mike really wants to get out of his offense is even more ball control. Because when you have a defense this good and a defensive head coach this good, you just really want to control the ball as much as possible. And Kenneth, as great as he was in that Patriots game, he's not a ball control running back because he lives outside the tackles so much. You really want a guy that can run between those tackles for 4 yards a pop, and he's just not that guy. So that's another reason to potentially let him walk as we consider this new offensive coordinator. It does seem like the Seahawks are almost exclusively looking in-house for offensive coordinator. I hear it's quarterbacks coach Andrew Janocko, passing game coordinator Jake Peets, running game specialist Justin Outen, and tight ends coach Mark Brown are the four guys they've been internally interviewing. It seems Jake Peets has been awesome this year. The passing game coordination has been top notch. We've seen what he was able to do with JSN under Kubiak, so he'd be a natural guy to go to. But yeah, I'm just curious what Mike wants out of it, what kind of draft capital they want to put towards running back if Kenneth leaves. Maybe they'd go, tight ends coach or offensive line coach and try to kind of refocus on 12 personnel and running the football.
Yeah, it is interesting that they, because of the way that the, I guess, coaching system happens or coaching hiring happens out, kind of while the Super Bowl and playoffs are happening, the Seahawks have kind of lost out on the top end of the offensive coordinators. With that being said, maybe they'll find somebody else. But I think, of all of them, I would want somebody who maybe has become or was a part of the Kubiak system and kind of detached and wanted to stay with the Seahawks or something. Just somebody who could replicate the type of style of offense that Kubiak was running, just because that felt super nice. That being said, McDonald was a huge part of the Ravens and the Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson side of things. So I think he would love a downhill back as well, and they would be happy to have more, 3, 4, 5 yard rushing games or rushing downs than big explosive plays like the Kenneth Walker ones that we were seeing.
And I think honestly that's what Mike wants. Like, it's so funny because we had such a fun offense this year, but he doesn't really want JSN accumulating 1,800 yards of receiving yards. I think he wants Sam and JSN to keep up what they're doing, but he wants less turnovers from Sam, which means less time forcing the ball downfield. Wants more ball control, and he wants to lower even more the best scoring defense in football. They want to get that total number down even more. So, it'll be curious to see if they bring in a Clint disciple, one of these guys like the passing game coordinator that was working with Clint every day, or if they said, that's awesome that worked for us last year. Now let's try to pivot into what I actually want our offense to look like.
Yeah, we will definitely see. And I guess now's the time to just say we're going to keep pace with everything that's happening with the Seahawks, but we are, as the podcast that touches on all things Seattle sports, we can talk about the Seahawks whenever we want to and whenever there's actually things going on. So right now there's not a ton of things to be had. This is kind of our send off to the Seahawks, and as news comes, once they figure out their offensive coordinator, we'll talk about that. But we're not going to be the ones speculating on all that. So you can find that in other Seahawks podcasts if you want to really dive into that. But for now, I think we're going to jump really quickly onto a couple other things. Obviously, the Kraken are not playing. The NHL is on hiatus for the Olympics. There's a bunch of hockey going on in the Olympics. Watch that if you really care about the Kraken players. I actually don't even know if any of them are on a team. And then one other thing to note is that the pitchers and catchers have reported to spring training. If you want to know somebody to follow or people to follow with this, with the pitchers and catchers, I am very, very keen on Ryan Sloan, and I want to see what Kate Anderson does down south, down in Arizona, as they progress towards spring training. That is going to be very fun and just a kind of a good thing to keep a status check on as they keep going. What are your anybody you want to keep an eye on in spring training area?
Bro, I appreciate you giving me time on this. I just go to you for my information. So listen to Tyler, don't listen to me.
No, I think the rookies are the key people to look at right there. I love Ryan Sloan. He's going to be so good. And then, Kate Anderson, obviously the one of the top prospects that was drafted last year. So a couple of big guys coming in there, and hopefully they're able to dominate. And we've got 6 or 7 starters that we can use this season and go from there. Last and certainly not least, college basketball is still happening. Gonzaga, even though they did lose to Portland, they are still in the top 15, which is fair. They did beat Wazoo pretty handily. Was that yesterday or 2 days ago?
That was on Tuesday, 2 days ago. So they beat Wazoo by 30. They beat Oregon State by 20. Pac-12 dominance for the resurgent Gonzaga Bulldogs. Grant Mike stepped up. He's had 56 points over the last 2 games, so he's been kind of carrying us offensively. But I was surprised to see Zags only drop to 12 after that embarrassing loss to Portland, but I think their net rating is still number 3 in the country or something like that. So it's just hard to drop them too low. Now it's on to see if we can fight for a 3 or 4 seed. I was worried it was going to be a 5, but I would love to get a 3.
Yeah, I think you guys will. If you win out, I think you guys will handily be a 4 seed. I think that's where you'll be.
Agreed. If we win out, I think 3 or 4 will be the question. If we lose another one, 5's in play.
Yeah. UW did lose to Penn State after they were minus 12.5 to go into that game. So that, I think, really puts the nail in the coffin on the UW in the tournament. There was some discussion. They were kind of on the outside looking in, but still had a chance. And that one, putting them at below 500 as of right now, and they don't really have any way to make their schedule look better, any more quality wins that they could get. I think they're officially, we've said that the last 3 weeks, but they're in my mind now. I had a shred of hope for the last couple weeks, but in my mind, they're officially out, and we can look towards the next season. A couple of injuries and all that really held them down this year.
A Penn State loss was a little bit frightening. They only put up 60 while Hans put up 19 for you. It's like, what's this offense going to look like when he's no longer a part of it? They need to do some serious retooling in the offseason.
Yeah, I think the Desmond Claude injury, him being unable to play, Ognacevic, the guy who we picked up from Lipscomb, who just has been a nothing burger all season with injuries and everything like that. Like the injury bug really plagued them. Their team was never healthy. The entire season, their team has never been healthy. So it's a go next on that one, and we will see what basically treat it like the Utah Jazz have treated this season, and we'll see what happens next. Anything else to get off your chest before I sign us out here?
No, man, it was a great week, and I've been listening to a lot of Pat's material where they're just tearing Drake May and Will Campbell apart. Sounds like they might sacrifice both of them before the summer's over, so I can't tell you just how pleased I am. What an awesome year for the Seahawks.
If by listening to Pat's material you mean just looking at memes about Will Campbell being a T-Rex, we're in the same boat. Yeah.
That's cool. My algorithm is cooked.
All right, well, for John Carey, I'm Tyler Cartwright, and this has been the Sound Up Seattle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode of Sound Up Seattle, please feel free to drop a like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can find us on YouTube. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us also on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Sound Up Seattle, all lowercase, all one word. Email us questions, comments, concerns. Congratulations about our amazing gambling addiction that we've been able to profit off of from the Seahawks this year.
When did we turn it around? Good for us.
You can find me, Tyler, at TyCart50, everywhere that's important, and you can find John.
Just hanging out, baby. Just having a good time.
Love it. All right. You have a happy Valentine's Day. Give a smooch to the missus for me. And I will.
You as well.
will
We can't be together, so we might as well smooch somebody.